I'd like to begin by thanking Pastor Brooks and Pastor Orange for the gracious invitation to be here today. I'd also like to thank Mike Brandenburg, I'm sorry. Mike took a chance 26 years ago now, inviting me, being the chair of the company that invited me to be pastor of this congregation. And his decision has changed my life for the better. Thank you all for being part of that. Congregations are strange things. It's not just about a place, it's about a relationship. Congregations, participants gather together, they link their lives together in special ways, they touch each other in ways that is almost like family. It's not just a place, it's a relationship. Look around you. I imagine that Brooks, like me, you could probably look out there and take attendance by making sure that everybody is seated where they're supposed to be seated. I see some missing spots now. Some spots that have been vacated since the last time I was here. Spots which are empty with people that have gone on to a greater reward or people who have gone on to other things. Look around you and see those relationships. It's a congregation to whom this letter to the Hebrews is being written. And this congregation of the Hebrews was breaking up. They've been through a lot together. They've been through the time when they came to the front of the sanctuary and confessed their faith that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. They've accepted Him as Lord and Savior. They have gone through the waters of baptism. They've brought their babies to be dedicated. Perhaps even they've gone through funerals. Look at the seats around you. I bet you could go to that sanctuary and name who should be sitting there. But time passes and things change. When I arrived here, I was 60 pounds lighter and had brown hair. Time passes, things change. Well, this church, evidently, the Hebrews were having their final service. The keys were being all handed in. Coffee pot was getting cleaned out one last time. The candles, they made sure that the candles were out. You know, one time they left the candles burning and something happened. Went around and turned out all the electric lights so as not to run up the electric bill after they were gone. All of these people are wandering out of the church, saying goodbye one final time. And the minister looks around at that empty sanctuary, and he runs out of the sanctuary into the parking lot, and he calls out, "Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Do you know where you're going? Do you know what you're going to do now?" You got to wonder why they were quitting, why they were giving up. Some people think that they were giving up because of heresy in the church. You know, people believe the wrong things. Some folks thought I was believing the wrong things when I arrived. I had a group, I'd been here about 2 months, and a group of ladies came to my office, and they sat down and they said, "You know, you're really not doing things right. This isn't the way Dr. Lowe would have done them." Now you have to realize that Dr. Lowe left 52 years before I arrived. Heresy in the church? I was committing heresy, evidently. People believe strange things, though, don't they? People believe strange things in the church all the time. There's that group in Kansas, those strange people that believe that God is visiting wrath on the United States because we are accepting of other people. Does that make sense? But that congregation sticks together. There was a group in New England called the Millerites. Now the Millerites were led by a man named Miller, obviously. And Reverend Miller thought that he could predict the exact date that the world was coming to an end. He came up with a date. I think it was in April of 1840 something. And everybody went out to the side of the hill waiting for the judgment to come, for Christ to come back. And the only thing that happened was the town drunk got hold of a trumpet and made a lot of noise. Well, Reverend Miller worked his predictions again. And again it failed. He worked them a third time, and people started to buy white robes so that they would ascend into heaven in their white robes. One farmer bought white robes for his cows, saying that it's a long way to heaven and the kids will need milk. This was a congregation. They stuck together. They believed. Strange things. I don't think heresy can bring down a congregation. Congregations don't fall apart because of strange beliefs. Maybe it was persecution, you think? Maybe persecution tore apart the Hebrews. Persecution. Maybe like they weren't able to get jobs because they were Christian. Or something else like that. Money would be today's persecution. You can't stay together because you don't have enough money. Well, yes and no. Money can be a problem. It might be something that drives people away. But that's not the final answer. Churches exist all over. I am responsible for putting together the statistics for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And I can tell you that churches live on $75 a year. That's not what keeps congregations apart. I think that what probably did in the Hebrew congregation as they were all wandering away was that everyone was just tired. You know what it means to be just tired? It's not my turn anymore. Things that I used to laugh at now make me angry. I used to be full of energy, and now I just don't have anything left to give. Just tired. You planned something that you wanted to be special. You work for 60 hours making sure that everything is just in the right place. It's like the Sunday school teacher who decided that she was going to take her class on a church picnic. And she bought 6 dozen hot dogs, 6 dozen buns, 2 gallons of baked beans, 2 gallons of potato salad. She even, hired a bus ready to take everyone to the park, and 3 people showed up. That's what it means to be just tired. Just tired. You started teaching Sunday school in 1964 when they asked you to be the substitute. And you never got it. That's what it means to be just tired. I've tried. It's time for someone else to do it. It's time for someone else to take my part. And you look around, and there's no one who's going to step up. That's what it means to be just tired. You can come up with 100 reasons why this congregation is falling away. Failure of evangelism, children moving away to other cities, not trusting new folks to do the job right. Whatever the reason, there was just no one else. Perhaps this congregation was just tired. So one of the church leaders runs into the parking lot and begins to plead to the folks, still talking there. Do they still have the board meeting in the parking lot after the board meeting? That was always the most important place where decisions were made, outside after the board meeting was over. And this guy runs into the parking lot. I say guy because it's probably a male. He runs into the parking lot and he says, "Wait a minute. Remember what your faith means to you. Remember what you have promised to God and what God has promised to you. Remember the people that have gone before you in faith. Those who have struggled. Those who have gotten past being just tired." So the church leader runs out there and he makes one final appeal. Remember, he says, when little Joey got hit by the car and we had the prayer vigil for him, remember that? Or remember, my fondest memory of Olive Branch, the time that I was most proud of our congregation, was a time I think in the 1990s, and Sacred Heart had burned. And Olive Branch had a collection. And we sent like $1,200 that we didn't have to Sacred Heart to help them with their situation. I was very proud of you all then. The self-giving, sacrificial love which you showed. I'll always have fond memories of the choir. I remember a woman who sat behind me and quietly dozed off each week during the sermon. Evidently, she trusted me. I remember the choir at the Thanksgiving service. I just arrived here, just gotten here a month before, and I was supposed to preach at the Thanksgiving service, and the choir was going to sing that day, and we did the service, and I found out afterwards that all the men in the choir had transistor radios listening to the Colts game during the sermon. This author to the Hebrews calls the congregation to remember their faith. Remember what your faith means. Remember what it does in your life, what part it plays. The church leader is out there imploring the congregation not to lose faith. The advantage you have you seen it? There was only one congregation with the Hebrews. Only one place to unite your life with Jesus Christ there. You have a variety of opportunities before you. You have Central Christian Church downtown, Southport Christian Church just south of you, Beech Grove Christian Church just to your east, Franklin Central to the southeast. You have a variety of disciples congregations here in this area. Where are you going to be on May 8th? One of Sandy's co-workers is moving to North Carolina. And when he went down there, found the place where he's going to be living, went to the congregation of the denomination that he belongs to, walked in and offered his services to the congregation. It turns out that what he does for the church here that he serves, they're just starting there and they were welcoming him with open arms. I dare you to give yourself over to somebody on May 8th and say, here's what I can do, use me. If you can't do anything, I dare you to walk into the sanctuary and say, please give me a pledge card. Just as certainly as people need a bank or a grocery or a gas station, Christians need a congregation, a place to gather with other Christians, a place to be enfolded in arms like family. We need the fellowship of others who will pray with us and serve with us and gather with us around the table each week. Why do you suppose the members of that congregation heard this pastor? Because once you've heard your name mentioned in someone else's prayer, once you felt the forgiveness of God come over you like a warm blanket on a cold night, once you've gathered at the table of the Lord and received all that love can give, once you've tasted the bread and drunk the cup, once you have hugged someone through the most painful experience of your or their lives, there is no place else to be but in church. Those who are going from church, those who are just leaving church, those who are tired and can't take another step in church are going nowhere.